Well, good morning and welcome to First Baptist Church of Alexandria. We're so excited that you are here today. When I walk in at the 11 o'clock service, everybody's chattering and talking and fellowshipping, and it's such excitement in the room because I know it's excitement because you're ready to see what God does in here. The beautiful organ playing, we're ready for God to do something great and marvelous. Would you stand? Would you welcome those around you to worship?
Be still, there is a healer.
God's people said, amen. Thank you so much. Please be seated.
Good singing. Good to see you this morning. Thank you for coming to First Baptist Church. It's obviously fall. We woke up yesterday to really cold weather and today again, but it's that time of year. And I'm glad maybe that refreshed you and brought you our way. Thank you for coming. If you're a guest here, please take a moment and fill out one of our communication cards. Let us know a little bit about you, then hold on to it and put it in the offering plate at the end of the hour. Somebody handed you one of these, and I'll encourage you not to read it now, but certainly to read it before the day is out. Would you join me in prayer, please? Father, it is good to be in your house. We thank you for the day that is before us. And Lord, we're starting it with you, and so we believe it's going to be a great day. Speak to our hearts and call us closer to yourself. Meet the needs represented in this room. But most of all, Lord, we want to bless your holy name. We do this in Jesus' name. Amen.
We are more than conquerors.
Would you stand? Let's continue to worship together.
not for a moment will you forsake me. You were singing in the dark, whispering your promise, even when I could not hear. I was held in your arms, carried for 1,000 miles to show, not for a moment did you forsake me. After all, you are constant. After all, you are only good. After all, you are sovereign. Not for a moment will you forsake me. Not for a moment will you forsake me. And every step, every breath, you are there. Every tear, every cry, every prayer. In my heart, at my worst, when my world falls down, not for a moment will you forsake me. Even in the dark, even when it's hard, you will never leave me. After all, and after all, you are constant. After all, you are only good. After all, you are sovereign. Not for a moment will you forsake me. Not for a moment will you forsake me. Not for a moment will you forsake me.
Thank you, Stacy. Great job. I want you to take your Bibles, please, and turn to the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 12. Today is a significant day in my life, and maybe to some degree in yours. Today marks 10 years that I've had the privilege of being pastor of this congregation. It's been the joy of my life. And it's also the 20th anniversary of Roger McGee's time as our pastor for worship. And that's quite a milestone. Roger, I want you to come up here. I want to talk to you a little bit about that for just a moment. Pull up a chair. These folks hear me all the time, but they don't often hear your heart. Back in 1989, Stacey King was in his rookie year with the Chicago Bulls. And in one of his first games, he scored but 1 point. It was a free throw shot, 1 point. In that same game, Michael Jordan scored 69 points. And Stacey King, long after that, would say, "I'll never forget that night when Michael Jordan and I combined for 70 points." And Roger, you and I are combining for 30 years of ministry. And I knew when I met you that I wanted to hitch my life to your star, and I'd be all right if I could stick close to you. And that's been the way it is. Some of the folks have seen pictures of you and me together advertising today, and I know Darla and Matt's little boy, he saw that picture, and he saw us, and he said, "That's Pastor Don, and that's Pastor Roger. They love each other." And it's true. We do, and that has made all the difference. 20 years. Did you think you'd be here that long?
You know, honestly, you asked me that question at the last service. I've had a little bit of time to think about it. You know, I don't think it ever crossed my mind how long I would be here. Suzanne and mine's first church, we were there for 5 years, and the next church we were there almost 10 years. And when I came here, I think in every case I went there to stay forever, if that's what God intended. So I don't think it ever crossed my mind. But I had this one idea in my head that very first church that I went to. I couldn't understand why everybody in town didn't come to our church. And when I went to the next church, I couldn't understand why everybody in town didn't come to that church. And I feel that way about First Baptist Alexandria. I do not know why anybody would need to go to any other church than this one.
It perplexes me too. I lay awake at night worrying about that.
So that's my passion, is that I'm excited about what happens at First Baptist. I can't figure out why anybody needs to go anywhere else.
Well, you know, 20 years, you've been here longer than any other ministry of music ever. And in this day of short tenures and revolving door leadership, it makes a difference when you invest a long time. The music program we have today is to a large extent because of your passion and your labor. Not just the choir, the loft was full today, but the youth choir that's on a regular footing and doing such wonderful things. The orchestra that you got going for us years ago. Thank you for that.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to be on the front end of some of these things. Some of that groundwork had been laid before I got here. I obviously was not the first person to introduce the living Christmas tree to this church, but it was something I had always wanted to do. Somebody else across town in previous places was doing a living Christmas tree, and I thought one day I'd love to do a living Christmas tree. So when the committee came to me and said, hey, we got this thing called the living Christmas tree, what do you think? Do you want to really get into that? Oh, yeah, I love it. I can't wait. I was excited, and I'm still excited about the opportunity to share Christ through the living Christmas tree.
Every week, Roger, as I move around the city, somebody, when I tell them I'm pastor of First Baptist, they'll say, oh, I've been there. I came to see your living Christmas tree. So it is a fabulous outreach. But do you remember the earliest days? What was it like 20 years ago around here?
Well, I remember coming in to visit on a weekday, and Ben Cox, who was the organist, was practicing, and the organ was in the middle of the choir loft, turned around backwards, and Ben was up here practicing. I remember how great that sounded, and walking into the room. The room doesn't look much different now than it did then, except for the fact that we've moved the organ over to the side, but there's a lot more things up here on the stage maybe than we had. The people were wonderful, and they were really excited about what we were going to do together. And I think that I've been able to kind of move at my pace, kind of be who I am and what I want to do, and not have external pressures pushing me to do this kind of thing and that kind of thing. It's really been kind of the things that I'm passionate about. If there's a song that I really like, then we do it. If I can't be passionate about it, then I don't really want to do it. So.
That's been my experience too. The people here give us a lot of trust and a lot of fellowship for our leadership, and that makes all the difference in the world. As you look back across 20 years, what do you take most satisfaction in?
Well, it was very exciting here in 2003. This church celebrated 200 years of ministry, and one of my roles as minister of music and worship was to kind of be the pastor over the committees that did the 200th anniversary. So when you go down the hall and you see the big boards on the wall down there was somebody on that team that did that. And when you read the history book, Darrell Hayes and his team that were part of our group were doing that, and those big banquets. The coolest thing was was the Sunday morning service and then the Sunday night service on that date in April back in 2003, when we combined our choir with the Alfred Street Choir, because they were celebrating 200 years just like we were, because we were once the same church, and we had singers all the way around the walls in here, and we sang together, and it was a mighty night. It was a mighty night, and Jay Wolf came back and spoke, and then there was a big thing over in the Faith Activities Center, and I remember walking back over here after a while, and all the lights were off except the one light above the stage, so this was the only part that was illumined. And I just stared at the stage, and I thought, this is your finest hour. You know, Roger, First Baptist Church, maybe this was your finest hour. It was.
I wasn't here then, but I'll tell you the finest hour I can think of in your ministry. Last year, the Southern Baptist Convention of 45,000 churches, the Southern Baptist Convention asked you to be the minister of music, to lead in worship at the annual meeting. And I thought, what a fabulous opportunity, and you did a great job.
Well, thank you. I know that you said to me, well, why wouldn't you want to do that? And I said, well, Don, I'm kind of afraid. I'm kind of afraid of it. I said, it's over my head. It's over my head. I know what the expectations are, and I know the kinds of people and the kinds of churches that have done this in the past. But as I relayed to you on the phone, I think you were on vacation. I called you. You were on the beach or something, I think. But anyway, I just said, I've said no. I've said no down through the years when opportunities would come up that were significant, and I was getting too old to say no again, you know, and so I went for it. And not only did I go for it, but the music ministry went for it, and they supported me. And this church, it was an opportunity for this church to be front and center in who we've been for more than 200 years at Southern Baptist Church. And it was a great moment.
I even joined the choir, you remember.
Did.
I joined the choir to sing.
I did. I remember that because I pointed it out on the stage. There was just a little moment before we sang the next song, and I pointed out that our pastors in the choir, and I was hoping those pastors out there among the thousands at the Southern Baptist Convention would join their minister of music's choir, but I doubt they did it. But I'm glad you did it. Thank you.
Well, I was only in it for a night, but it was a great night. It was a great night, as I recall. Well, I have often said, Roger, that I think you have the hardest job in ministry today, certainly on any church staff. Everybody has their own preferences about music and worship, and you manage to perfectly satisfy everybody. How do you do that?
Well, thank you for saying that. Allowing me to stay 20 years might seem like that they've gone along with it, but they haven't always gone along with it. I know that everybody has a radio in their car, and they can choose any station they want to listen to musically. And what helps me manage through choosing style and presentation is that I like lots of kinds of music. I don't like rap music, I guess. I'm not big on that, but I have looked at some recently, but just with our youth choir.
I guess we could get ready for that, okay?
It's a youth choir thing that came in a book recently, and I was looking at that trying to figure out how we might use it. But because I like so many different things, even things that didn't appeal to me to begin with, and it would grow on me, and I'd find myself out mowing the grass and humming the tune and realizing, hey, that really says something, and that will minister to people's hearts. And when things get really confusing about what style to do, what program to do, all these different things, I always try to think, what's the main thing? What's the main thing? What's our main reason for existence? Does it honor and glorify God? And Jesus said, I've come to seek and save that which was lost. So how does this song, how does that thing matter with that? So I try to get it down to the lowest common denominator, and that is evangelism in Jesus. So that helps me make the decision, helps me keep going.
Well, you are more than a music director for our church. You're a real pastor, and you have a pastor's heart. And you've ministered to so many of these people one-to-one and made a difference in their life. Suzanne and your boys have been a part of it the whole way. You raised your kids here. My wife has been with me every step of the way. And our son, John Mark, is here from Brazil today to be a part of this. His growing up had already taken place, but when I told him we might be moving to Alexandria, he said, well, go for it. I support you in that. It didn't impact his life at all, but it ended up impacting his life because he moved up here and his life went in a new direction.
And I would say the same for Suzanne and Corey and Casey, is that they've really enjoyed it in Alexandria. And it's been a thrill. As a matter of fact, our oldest son, Corey, ended up being John Mark's roommate for a while here in town. So our families have been...
And went to Brazil and was in his wedding.
That's right. That's right. So our families have been close, and it's been a pleasure working with you. It really has.
Wow. I remember several years ago, Sean Connery, James Bond, was being interviewed, I think by Barbara Walters, and they did a long interview. And as I recall the last question, she looked at Sean Connery and she said, "Sean Connery, 69 years old, what's next?" And he looked at the camera and he said, 70. And that's a great answer. 20 years, what's next, Roger?
Well, it's not 70. It's not 70. I'm a little short of that. But, I mean, we'll just watch and wait and see what God does. And the good thing is that God is at work in this congregation. And so many of you, you've supported me, you've supported Suzanne, especially in this time that we're struggling through with Suzanne's cancer. But God is at work, and in my heart too. So as a family together, we're going to keep growing towards Him.
Amen. Let's thank Roger. Thank you so much. Are you in Hebrews yet? Hebrews chapter 12? Find it on your iPad or iPhone or Pew Bible or your own Bible. That'd be the best thing of all. Chapter 12. I've entitled this message today, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And that's a title borrowed from Eugene Peterson. That's what he calls Christian perseverance. Staying on in the battle, faithful, day in and day out. Now, the hard part in that expression is the word long, a long obedience in the same direction. Not quitting when you want to, when the going gets tough. We like to see results. We like to see them immediately. We cut corners to get it done. And God is calling you and calling me to a long obedience in the same direction. Last week, I had the privilege of going back to the church I pastored before this one for homecoming day. My first time back in 10 years, so this has been quite a month for me. It was homecoming day, and when the chairman of deacons introduced me, he said, 10 years ago, Don, we let you go. You were going to Washington, D.C. to straighten everything out up there. And then he paused and he looked at me and he said, what happened? Everybody wants immediate results. We honor things that last. We like things that last. That's why when Queen Elizabeth II reached 63 years in her reign, the longest reigning British monarch, we celebrated. That's why when Jarvis and Betty Pentecost celebrated last week 68 years of marriage, we celebrate with them. That's something to be celebrated. When things last. And so today, that's part of what this day is all about. We're celebrating a partnerships that have lasted. And Roger and I could not have stayed here had it not been for your faithfulness and your long obedience in the same direction as well. But you know, it's not just us, it's not just people in ministry. The same thing is true in your life's work. If you are to be successful, it will take perseverance. It will take staying with it, not quitting when you want to, because I know there are times when you want to quit. And in your Christian life, it is the same. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. In your Christian life, what does it take? A long obedience in the same direction. Because we all know people who started out well. Like you, they gave their heart to Christ. Like you, they got baptized. Like you, for a while, they were very active in church. But we don't see them anymore. They're gone. Flashes in the pan, maybe. Discouraged, possibly. Weary of the Christian life, maybe. But you don't want to be that way, and I don't want to be that way. I'm looking for a long obedience in the same direction. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. God's word for us this day. Roger's been a minister of music all of his adult life, and I've been a pastor, a senior pastor, all the days of my adult life. I started when I was 19. It was a small church, but I was a senior pastor because I was the only pastor. In college, a little bit in high school, I sold appliances for Montgomery Ward, but besides that, this is all I've done. And with Malcolm Gladwell, sometimes I wonder if I could do anything else. Sometimes I fantasize that I could be a trial lawyer, like maybe you are, and that would work for about a day if I could convince the judge to grant a continuance so I didn't have to defend you. And then I think maybe I could be a surgeon, and that would be great for about a day if I could convince you to put off surgery a little while longer. You know, Joe, I think that back of yours will get better on its own. You know, in your profession, you make it look easy, and sometimes I guess we make it look easy when it's not. That's the trick of it all. But what keeps us going is the passion we have for the work. What keeps you going in your Christian life? I want to give you 4 or 5 things that you need and I need if we're to have a long obedience in the same direction. On the back of your order of worship insert, you can write these 5 things down. The first is you need to have a passion. You need to have a passion for Christ. What does the writer of Hebrews say? Seeing we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us run with perseverance the race set out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. You got to have your eyes somewhere. And if you're going to make it over the long haul, your eyes have to be fixed on Jesus. If you fix your attention on the church, you will be disappointed, because look around you. We're all human beings, and we are prone to disappoint one another. And if you put your eyes on a pastor, well, it's going to happen there too. And I know that I've disappointed you here and there across the years. It goes with being human. But one who will never disappoint you is Jesus. And that's why the writer says, fix your eyes on him. That's why, you know, when Peter was out walking on water, he was really doing it. It was a miracle. He was walking on water, and he was coming toward Jesus. And then he took his eyes off Jesus for just a moment. And he began looking at the storm and the sea around him. And he began to sink, and he cried out, Lord, save me. And Jesus did. You need to keep your eyes on Jesus. Our faith is all about Jesus. He's the beginner of it. He's the ending of it. It's what he did for us that brings us into new life. And so keep your eyes fixed there. Always have a passion for Jesus. You'll grow weary with your church work. You'll grow weary with whatever job you have. There'll be moments when you're disappointed even with your faith. You prayed and it didn't happen the way you prayed. But Jesus will never disappoint. Keep your eyes on him. Something else. You need to have a love for people and a love for the place where you serve. A love for people and a love for the place where you serve. Robert Hansen, several years ago, wrote a book, and this line, it's the only line I remember from the book. He said, Pastor, it's a book for pastors, Pastor, don't just love your church. That's expected of you. That's almost automatic. Don't just love your church. Like your church. And I try to tell you often that I not only love you, I really like you. I like being a part of you. And I love where we live. I love serving here in Alexandria, Virginia. Years ago, my good friend Jim Balcom, who's pastor at Columbia Baptist Church over in Falls Church, But long before I came up here, he was already over there. And we were talking one day, and he said, Don, there are two types of pastors in Northern Virginia. There are those who love it here, and there are those who hate it here. And so when I came, I determined in my heart I was going to love it. And I've loved it from day one. It's not perfect, of course not. But what a place God gives us the privilege to live and to serve. And maybe you are here against your will to some degree. The government moved you here. Your job sent you here. The military has you here for a time. And you don't like it very much. And you can't wait till it's time to go. I'll tell you what a lot of folks tell me who move away. They come back to visit and they say, you know, we didn't mind leaving this area, but we sure miss this church. There's not a church like it, exactly like it, anywhere. But I'll tell you this, just a little bit of advice, and it's for free. You will have a much better time in the D.C. metro area if you decide you're going to love it. God has you here for a purpose. So keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Have love for the people and for the place. And then number 3, stay prepared. Always be ready for whatever comes along. Stay prepared. And the writer of Hebrews tells you how to do it. Since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance. Yeah, there are a lot of things that can weigh us down, things from our past that are heavy burdens, and sin is always crouching at the door, always ready to snare us. Lay it aside and run your race. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a 10-second 100-meter dash. It's a 2-hour or more marathon. Run it. Always be ready. Always be ready. So keep your heart clean. Keep your heart pure. Lay aside those sins so that when the challenges come, you are ready. Bill Bradley was an NBA star who became a United States Senator. He once said, I might lose because I wasn't tall enough. I might lose because I wasn't fast enough, but I wasn't going to lose because I wasn't ready. Always be ready. Paul wrote Timothy, and he said, be instant, in season and out of season. Always be prepared. Turn over to 1 Corinthians for a moment. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. And Paul uses a sports image for us that I think relates. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. And look at verse 24. Chapter 9, verse 24. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I'm not on a treadmill. I do not fight like a man just beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I've preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified from the prize. Always be prepared. And then number 4, surround yourself with people who can inspire and encourage you. That's what the writer is saying. Seeing we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, surround yourself with people who can cheer you on, whether you're in the ministry like Roger and I are, or whatever your field. In your Christian life, surround yourself with people who can call you to higher living, who can motivate you upward. Some of these people are already in heaven. They've left this world, but they are there cheering you on. It is their memory that encourages you. I've been here 10 years, and across those 10 years, I've married a lot of folks, and I have buried a lot of folks. And many of those that we've buried still inspire me now. And when I'm facing something, or I'm trying to decide what we need to do as a church, I'll wonder, well, what would Billy think about that? Or what would Bob say? They're still encouraging me on. But not just those who've gone before, those who are here right now. You're surrounded right now by people. If you'll let them, they can build you up. Some have written books, you can read them. Some preach sermons and you can listen to them. But surround yourself with people who can call you upward. Stay in communion with them. And then one more thing. Be patient. Run with perseverance the race that is set before you. It's not going to happen in a day. It takes a while. Be patient, waiting for results. We want to see it right now, and God's timetable isn't that way. You plant a seed, and you watch it slowly grow. But at any one moment you're looking at it, nothing's happening. It's only in retrospect, looking back, that you see the growth that has taken place. Be patient for those results. When that deacon chairman last week asked me the question, "You've been there 10 years, Don, what happened?" My answer was, it takes a while. You've got to be patient. And indeed, all of us have to be patient. I preached last Sunday, and we reminisced and all that, but I did manage to preach the gospel. And when I finished the sermon, I gave the invitation, and a teenage boy, I think he was 17 years old, came down the aisle to profess his faith in Jesus, publicly to give his heart to Christ, and they'll baptize him soon. And I was excited about that, any pastor would be. But afterwards, I went over and introduced myself, and he said, "Oh, I know you." And his mom was right there, and she said, "Don, don't you remember? You held James when he was a little baby, and you dedicated him to the Lord for such a day as this." And I had the privilege to come full circle, to be there at the beginning and to be there at the answer to all those prayers. You have to be patient. Not only for results, but also for rewards. You know, God handles all of that, and God determines just how faithful we have been or not, and so we wait for that. We wait for that. Paul mentioned crowns and winning the prize. He wrote something else in Philippians chapter 4. He said to that church at Philippi, he said, "You are my joy, and you are my crown." And that's exactly how I feel about you. Exactly. You're my joy, and if there are going to be any crowns for me, it's going to be because of you. So we're all in this together. This past week, I listened to a TED Talk. Do you ever do that? You know what I'm talking about? TED Talks. Google it and start looking at some of them. On every conceivable subject, 15, 20-minute presentations. And the one I watched, it intrigued me. It was how to live to be 100. And I'm beginning to think like that, you know, how can I live longer? And so the speaker began his talk by saying that our bodies are basically built to live 90 years. Some more, of course, but basically 90 years. But he said that the average life expectancy in our country is 78 years. In other words, most of us leave 12 good years on the table, and we never have them, and we could have them. And studies have been done of pockets of populations around the globe where people tend to live longer, even 100 and more. And the speaker said there are common ingredients in every one of these cultures of those who live the longest. So I got out my pen and I started writing them down. One, of course, first of all, genetics, and you can't do anything about that. But number one, diet, the right kind of diet, and you know that. Exercise, but not going to the gym, doing something every day that's a part of your life, your regular routine, your work, that keeps you going. But then this. He said, having something to wake up for every day. Having a reason to get up in the morning. A passion. Do you have one of those? your job, your family, you're retired, long retired now. How about those grandchildren? Something that gets you up in the morning. And then one more thing. And this was not a Christian presentation, but the guy said, being a part of a community of people that share your beliefs and values. Being a part of a community. And I thought, well, every one of those ingredients is found in the local church. A diet of the Word of God. Exercise as we live out our faith. A reason to get up in the morning, absolutely, to share the gospel with the world. And a community where we can come with our joys and we can come with our sorrows. And what that means is First Baptist Church of Alexandria could be your ticket to a very long and happy life. I commend it to you. I want you to be a part of it as we journey forth. But, the reality is we all are going to die. Some may live to be 100 or more, but eventually the body gives out and we die. But that's just the beginning, because there's eternity on the other side. And wouldn't you know it, church can help you with that too. By pointing you to Christ, encouraging you to keep your eyes fixed on Him and trusting Him for eternity. I invite you to be a part of all that. Join in the journey. What's next? Well, more years to come, and we'll serve God together throughout. Would you bow with me, please, everyone? We're going to sing in a moment. I'm going to stand at the front of the room, and if there's anybody here today who would like to take her stand, you have given your heart to Christ, maybe recently, but you've not been baptized, and you want to be at the next opportunity, you come. Or if you want somebody to help you make that commitment, you come. Or if you'd like to join our fellowship, come and present yourself today. We would love to talk to you about that. Father, bless now these moments for your glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand.
We'll bow our heads and we'll pray congregationally. Dear God and our eternal sovereign, thank you for speaking to us today through our pastor. Help us to carry that message as we go out into the world from this consecrated, holy, and sacred sanctuary in which you dwell. We thank you that you are always with us from the deepest fathoms of this oceans to the highest mountains of the peaks of this earth. Thank you for the daily, large and small blessings in our lives. Help us to take those blessings to the world as ministries of salt and light, to expand and bring more souls into your earthly kingdom as bright lamps, illuminating the way to your heavenly kingdom. Thank you for blessing our congregation with a wonderful pastoral staff, our ministerial assistants and support staff who labor so faithfully for us in your vineyards. We are eternally blessed by the fruits of their labors. We thank you that we have been eternally blessed by the 10 years of service of our senior pastor, Don Davidson, and his wife, Audrey, and the 20 years of service of our pastor of music and worship, Roger McGee, and his wife, Suzanne. What wonderful treasures they are. Thank you for blessing us beyond all measures for the eternal differences they have made in all our lives. We ask for the unction of the Holy Spirit upon our tithes and offerings today, and may they be multiplied according to your holy will. It is in the name of Christ that we make our prayers. Amen.